Welcome everyone to Africam4Good, brought to you by explore.org. Thank you for joining us today. We're having a discussion with one of the wonderful guides at Nkorho Bush Lodge, and it is of course Pieter Dannhauser, who is the head ranger at Nkorho Bush Lodge. Thanks for joining us today, Pieter. It's great to have you on the show, and I know a lot of our guests enjoy your camera very much. And as we start all of our shows, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, basically, I've been part of the Sabi Sands my entire life. I'm very fortunate to have spent most of my school holidays here, and I've been working in total. This would be 11 years, and of that 11, 8 years at Nkorho Bush Lodge. So it's it's been a long time. And I mean, yep. Being able to work in this area, it's very nice. Yeah.
So very much your home away from home. I know that, working in the bush and being in one location for so long is quite unusual for guides. A lot of guides, there's a lot of turnover. I know you would know that as a head ranger. Yeah. In terms of Nkorho itself, what do you like about it? And, what can you tell us about the lodge and the reserve?
You know what? Let's start with about the reserve. I mean, obviously the Sabi Sands is very well popular across the world, and now with COVID times locally, it's become also very popular. But what I do like about the Sabi Sands is that, we do border the Kruger National Park, and it seems like it's this massive park. We've got a lot of animals cross-bordering. I think the Sabi Sands is just such a privilege to place to work in and to be part of. And it really counts when you do start your guiding career in the Sabi Sands and you want to go elsewhere. Like other places is also very nice to work at, but everybody's got this dream to work in the Sabi Sands, and it is actually an amazing place, especially the Northern Sands. There's such a wonderful vibe between all the guides here, and it's just an area that's amazing. The sightings is amazing. So the Northern Sabi Sands is a really special place. Coming back to Nkorho, then, I just love Nkorho. It's a very small, intimate lodge, and we are very family orientated. We do get a lot of return guests, and all our return guests becomes family. So we like to keep it, I would say, not too overly social with the guests, but we do like to make them feel at home, feel comfortable, make them part of the team, if I can put it that way. So, and I like how the lodge is situated. We've got this wonderful open area looking down towards the Africam. And I think what stands out more is the owners of the lodge, which makes it so much comfortable for us to work here. They really do take good care of us. They make us enjoy our job. So I think that's why I've stayed so long here, is because I'm comfortable where I am. I like to be a guide here, and the people I work with is amazing. So, and the guests that we meet, like I said, they all become family.
Yeah, it is quite special to have that. I think the first lodge that I worked at as well, it felt like home. You make such good friends. You work hard, you play hard. It's part of the life in the bush, and very special. Just out of interest, Pieter, how many rooms is the lodge? How big is the lodge?
So the lodge at the moment, we've got 8 rooms. We've got 6 normal rooms, then we've got our honeymoon suite, and then we've got a family room.
Okay, so it is a very small, intimate camp as well, which is lovely.
It's a very small, intimate lodge. I mean, the max capacity that we do, if it's like really big group check-in, it's about 20 people, but it's always a number between 15 or 18. Okay.
Lovely. Yeah. All right. Well, we've seen some amazing animal sightings on the Nkorho cam, as I'm sure you know. Have you seen any sightings on the camera that stick out to you?
I think, obviously, when I go on leave and I can't sleep at night. It's just quickly jump onto Africam and check what's going on. And there were a few sightings, you know, obviously when we are all asleep here at night at the lodge. But there's one that really stands out for me, is we had two female lionesses. I think, if I can remember correctly, part of the Tortured Pride, and they got surrounded by two porcupine, which I think was quite cool. And the whole interactive scene around the pen, them walking around one another, sniffing, looking. So that was pretty cool. I mean, there's so many other sightings, but for me, that was one that really stood out.
Yeah, look, I'm with you. The animal interaction stuff is always so interesting to see, and especially lions with porcupine, you know, who are always thinking, well, maybe I can take a chance here, and you can almost see them weighing up their odds on whether or not this is a good idea or not, which is, and that particular sighting was really great because it was quite long. I remember as well, we had quite a long interaction on camera. Interesting one for me. Last year, we saw a caracal on the cameras. How often do you see caracal at Nkorho?
Look, I've never seen one at Nkorho. The previous lodge I worked at was Elephant Plains, and I was a junior guide there. And one of the guides, they saw a caracal on the border fence between Sabi-Sand and the community. So they saw a caracal, but a really quick sighting of it. I've never seen one myself, particularly that I can remember of in the Sabi-Sands. But a sighting that we've seen around here that's not normal for this area, but it's possible, is an aardwolf. So that was quite something to see. But seeing that caracal walking around here gave us good hope. I must admit, I thought I saw one when I was still working for Elephant Plains, sort of in the same area where they saw the last one, but turns out to be was an African wildcat. So it was late afternoon. So my hopes were high, but there were sightings of caracal, but I've not seen one myself around the lodge. No.
Yeah. Look, it's actually funny you say that. I mean, I as well, you know, in all my years in the bush, can count on one hand the amount of times I've seen caracal anywhere, you know, let alone in the Sabi-Sands or Kruger. And it's actually amazing, you know, we all, you know, work so hard to find things like leopard and lions, of course, but actually caracal is far more difficult to find. And it was exciting to see that on the cameras. But something else I wanted to mention that you were chatting about, you know, how guides early on in their career or any time in their career, always, you know, the Sabi-Sands, Kruger in general, they're often considered the pinnacle of guiding. And I know when I started guiding, I started at Pinda Private Game Reserve in KZN, you know, and we all got placed to different locations. That particular company had a number of lodges. And I remember distinctly being quite grumpy that I didn't get to go to the Sabi-Sands. And when we started working as guides at Pinda, which was amazing, and I mean, I loved my time there. The game viewing is unbelievable. You know, we used to struggle for leopards. They've really, you know, come a long way now, and they get a lot better sightings now. But I remember talking to my colleagues in the Sabi-Sands, who would, you know, the leopards just sounded like they were falling out of the trees, you know. So I know the sands are famous for leopards. Can you tell us a little bit about the leopards and the leopard territories that have, or the leopard territories that you know of around Nkorho?
The whole dynamics of the leopards around the lodge have changed quite a bit since I've started here. I must admit, in the last year or so, the leopard sightings around Nkorho has gone down a little bit, purely because we are bordering the Kruger National Park, and having all these unknown leopards, you know, especially males traveling from other areas, you know, coming in here, they're quite skittish. So our resident female leopard in Kanyeni has basically completely moved away. She's out of this territory purely because we've had so many new young males moving into this territory. So there's all these tracks going in and out of Kruger. So the dynamics around our lodge for leopard has changed a bit, but I think in a exciting way as well, welcoming these new cats coming from the Kruger, or we identify them coming all the way from the Timbavati even. So that's very exciting. So I think it's kind of like all well, out with the old, in with the new kind of thing, which I actually enjoy. I mean, the other day I had a discussion with a guide. Well, he works here for us, Johan Enslin, and the amount of leopards that I've seen in my time working in the Sabi Sands is ridiculous. I think I counted anything close to 45 individual leopards. So that is just, it's just crazy. But all the older cats have now either passed away due to old age or so forth, and we've got all these new youngsters moving in from different territories where they've got chased out. So I think the dynamics of the leopard situation in the Northern Sands has really changed a lot, but in a good way. I mean, it's nice, like I said, to welcome in new cats and seeing who's new on the block and getting these cats to be a little bit habituated towards us, because some of them are still a little bit skittish when we approach them with vehicles, but in time I'm sure they will settle down, and there's actually quite a few who has started to settle down, which is very nice. I mean, I think around our lodge we've got now about 3 to 4 different individual males moving around, a couple of young females now and again. So yeah, it's quite exciting to see what's going to happen in the future with the leopards here.
Yeah, I mean, I know one of our viewers' favorites is, of course, Watika, who we see quite often on the cam.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about her?
Oh, Watika. I mean, since we've known her from as a cub, she was always a difficult one. And that's why we named her Watika, because she's so undecidable what she wants to do. I mean, the one day she would be amazing to look at, performing incredible sightings. And the next day, it's like the first time that she's ever seen a vehicle. But she is around. Yeah, I mean, we do have her tracks coming in and out of the lodge as well. So she comes and sniffs around in between the rooms. And the majority of times when we see her is unfortunately on the camera late at night when she decides it's time to come for a drink. And then the next morning, we'll just see her tracks moving around. So whether she moves north away from us or into the Kruger, but there's times where we find her and then you can just see on her face expression like, oh, here they come again. And so she just
it does feel like that sometimes.
Just be her little self, yeah.
Well, here's a tough question that I'm sure you get asked all the time by guests and impossible to answer, but have you got a favorite leopard?
Ooh. I actually do. I think before I get to that, telling you who this leopard is, I mean, everybody's got their own personal favorite or a leopard that has left a mark on a specific guide. Like, for example, if you come across a leopard with cubs, those cubs, they become automatically your cubs because you found them. But a few years ago, well, when I actually drove to Nkorho my very first time on the access road, there's Nkanyeni, and she's just chilling in the road looking at me, and this is my first leopard to see in this part of the reserve. And since ever then, I've always just felt like, she's my leopard. So I really have a soft spot for Nkanyeni, although we don't get to see her as much, but I always have a soft spot for her. It's just the way she reacts towards the vehicles and the way she introduces her cubs always to us. It's really something special. She's never aggressive. I would never forget the one morning, her one set of cubs where unfortunately both of them did not make it to adulthood, but we noticed, that she had suckle marks, and we've seen tracks of the cubs, and then we found her the one morning on a termite mound, and it was quite far into the bush. And I said to the other guides, well, let's just wait on the road and see what's going to happen. And then she brought the cubs to us.
Oh,
It's like she felt comfortable around us enough in order to bring those two very skittish little cubs, and she brought them right up to the vehicle. And then there was just this amazing moment, taking that in. Wow, how's this happening? Because usually they hide their cubs well away, and here's Nkanyeni just
yeah.
strolling by saying, come on, come meet these people.
These people. That's awesome. As
Yeah.
you say, all guides have a special and favorite leopard.
Mm,
Certainly leopards are quite, renowned characters in all the different
yeah,
lodges and reserves. So yeah, that's a great little story about that. Thank you for that, Peter. I think
not
you
a
and I could
problem.
talk about leopards for the rest of the day. So we better move on
Oh,
before we get lost in the land of leopards.
yes.
So let's go on to, you mentioned the Torchwood Pride a little earlier. Again,
Mm,
another one of the favorites for our viewers out
mm,
there. Those big
yeah,
Kruger males, the Torchwood Pride. What's going on there? How many in the Pride, and where are they?
that's a good question, Russell. Where are they? You know what? These these two Kruger males, I mean, we haven't really given them a coalition name. We just name them the Kruger males. We've had other people calling them different names, from different areas in the Kruger, like around Hoyo Hoyo and Mbali, but we know them as the Kruger boys. And the first time we saw them was back in 2016, 17, but it takes me back to the movie. I don't know if you can recall The Ghost and the Darkness, those lions on
Of
there.
course.
Um,
Yeah.
those type of lions, this is how they were. And it's taken us from, well, let's give it to 2017 up until last year for at least one of the males to really had found trust in us and is comfortable around us. But unfortunately, the other brother, there's no way. I mean, he's just a grumpy old cat. He doesn't trust us. But the Torchwood Pride, their numbers and dynamics within the Pride have gone from 17 to 12, back to 15, back to 11. So, and also with the Cubs, I mean, we've had Cubs in the last 4 years every year, and then the cubs just disappear, and we don't know where, because the biggest part of their territory does stretch into the Kruger, quite deep into the Kruger. So whether something happens there, they run into different
Hmm.
male lions or other lion prides that we don't get to see. But now these days, the Tortured Pride, they are around here. I mean, we hear them roaring every night. 2 nights ago, before the rain, we had tracks for them bypassing the lodge. About 2 weeks ago, their tracks were in the lodge with the males. So they come and visit us when all of us are fast asleep, which is quite a pain, because the next morning, what we do here as guides is in the morning, we check Africam immediately. Who's been there? What's been going on? And then here's all the lions, and then we get our hopes up and then start following the tracks from the pan, and then goes back into the Kruger. And that's where they spend most of their time these days, is in the Kruger
Okay.
again, which I don't understand, because there's not really any other lion prides that's going to push them away. But they are around here. At the moment, I think there are 11 females with, I think there's 6 or 7.
Okay. 6 or 7 cubs.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for the updates on the lions. What animal, we could talk about leopards, we could talk about lions forever, but for yourself,
Oh,
what would you love to see
yes.
most on the camera? Like, what do you think would be the most special animal for you to see on the camera?
I In the dry season, it is a gold mine here. We've got all different animals coming down, but one animal that I would like to see more here is sable antelope. I mean, once a
Hmm.
year we get a sable antelope during the dry season that pays us a visit, and then boom, he goes away again, and we won't see him again until the next dry season. So I think that would be something that I would love to see more and more here. I mean, everything else is just blooming here.
Yeah, sable is always amazing. Another one of my favorites as well. I agree. And I mean, I have had, I think, some fairly rare sightings of sable in the Sabi Sands, but like you say, it's not very common for sure.
No,
All right, so
no.
I'll let you know if we ever catch sable. I'll send you a message immediately that we've
Thank you.
that we've got sable on the cameras.
Yes.
So Peter, on Africam4Good, we always want to mention some conservation work. Is Nkorho involved in a few community or conservation projects? What can you tell us about those?
Well, majority of the lodges in the northern Sabi Sands is involved in a lot of community service that's involved with the Sabi Sands. So I think one of the biggest community things we are involved with at the moment is there's this huge vegetable garden production that we get all our some of our fresh vegetables from the outside. And a lot of our conservation fees, is involved with supporting the communities as well, and so forth.
Awesome. Well, I know, one of the biggest ways that people out there can, of course, support those projects and the lodge is, of course, just coming to visit. A lot of that income does go towards these community projects. How else can the people out there help, for any of our viewers who maybe can't get down here, but if they want to get involved or help out with those projects?
Well, look, obviously, I think they can get in contact with lodges and see if they can work through a certain lodge to say, this is what we want to do. If we can maybe donate school gear or school clothing, the donations toward a certain community of our choice. I think that would be one of the easiest way, if people that can't make it here to support that part of the communities, to directly speak to a lodge of their choice and say, we would like to donate this or that to a certain community of your choice, or school or medical centers.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely put that out there. We'll put a little link to Nkorho Bush Lodge, so that if they are keen to get involved, that they can get in touch with you guys over there. Last thing, Peter, any message out there to those watching the live cams at Nkorho?
I think firstly what I want to say is thank you for everyone that has watched it over all these years. I mean, the Africam does expose the lodge very well and helps us as well. And we get a lot of people that, when they check in, they immediately want to know where's the camera. So then, it does help, and people can follow and see what to expect when they come here, what type of animals we have here. And then from the Africam, obviously, we have our Facebook page, and people can follow all of our sightings there. So in advance, they are sort of prepared, knowing what's waiting for them. And it's amazing to have this huge support system where people that's not able to travel, can still sit through a camera and enjoy the animals and the sounds just as much as we do. And what I really appreciate is every morning we have, so many people that send us messages, say, "Ooh, there was this at the camera at that time, they moved into this direction." So I think that's really a nice support structure to know that if we're not watching the camera, there's always someone out there that will warn us and make us aware that there was an amazing sighting. And if I can say this, that to the late Barry Zettergreen, he was one of our biggest supporters, and he was so part of our lives, and we unfortunately never got to meet Barry. And knowing that this was part of his life, he was unable to travel, but still he enjoyed the Africam so much, and having all the conversations. It's nice to meet people over the internet that's so passionate and always asking questions, and we're always there to answer them. So yeah, I think it's nice to connect with people from all over. So thank you for everyone that's always there.
Awesome, Peter. Thank you, man. Yeah, I mean, it is really quite special, especially in the last 2 years, as you say, where things have really been difficult in getting out into the wild of the world. So yeah, a little glimpse into the bush is always pretty special. Listen, man, thank you so much for joining us today, Peter. I know the Nkorho cam
No
is
problem.
down at the
Thank you so
moment
much.
with a couple of
Yes,
ants
so
making a home there.
just an update on that. We do have the new, I think it's a power box that we do have on site. We just have to wait for all the ants to eventually move away. We will be checking the camera today again and see if there's any progress or what's going on down there. And the camera should be up and going within the next few days, hopefully.
Awesome. Well, I know all of our viewers will be waiting with bated breath, and myself included. But Peter, thank you again for joining us. We'll be keeping an eye on the camera.
No
If you
problem.
drive
Thank
by,
you so much.
if you drive by with some guests, give us a wave, and we'll say hi on the
We
show.
always do. We always do.
But yeah, I hope you guys are busy this year and have lots of guests coming through to come and support you. And
Thank
of course,
you so
enjoy
much,
the
Russell.
wild.
I appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
We'll do
And
so.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. And thank you all once again for joining us for Africam4Good. Please join us again next week for the show brought to you by explore.org. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay informed for any of our upcoming shows. But from all of us here in the Africam team, cheers for now.